I wasn't producing, you know, and I knew that I needed to find myself again. And that didn't come until I got into treatment. And then I realized, you know, that, you know, I do have a purpose. And so I started to move toward that purpose, find out what it was, get back to being who I was before I even went in the military.
Hello, my name is Blake Furman. I'm the founder for Veterans Navigation Network. We're a 501c3 nonprofit located in Billings, Montana, serving veterans across Montana, getting them the resources that they need and connecting them to the benefits they earn through their service. Today I get the opportunity to share one of the stories of a veteran that we've worked with directly and have him on the show today. So please welcome Eugene Linwood.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Eugene. You know, a lot of our viewers are going to be civilians. Some of them are going to be from different branches of the military, but I'm thankful to have somebody from the best branch in the military on the show with me today, which is the Army. But they're all upset now that I said that.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
But you didn't start out in the Army, so kind of take us back to, you know, childhood, growing up, and what led you to joining the U.S. military.
Well, I grew up south of Chicago, and I came up in a large family. It was 8 children. We were Jehovah's Witnesses, and so we did a lot of knocking on doors, things like that. And then when I got out of high school, I got married, and I found that I needed to do something. I wanted to do something that for a career. And so in 1986, I joined the military and moved on from there.
What, I mean, so serving, I imagine, a lot in the church and things like that growing up, but what kind of led going into the military? I mean, I grew up, you know, Mormon myself, and I don't recall any real desire from the church in serving, and so a lot of that came from mentors in my life and family. So what was the trigger, I guess, for you that got you into the military?
For me, it was seeing a lot of gang violence, seeing things that were going on in the community. Myself and 2 other friends, we were going to go in for the buddy system. So we all went down to the MEP station in Chicago, and we all went in together, and they said, well, we're going to swear in. So I ended up swearing in and going back out to the car. I said, well, what happened? And they said, we just wanted you to go in. So they were looking out for my best interest, and I'm glad they did. It was a positive step for me.
Yeah. So what did you do in the Army?
I was a military policeman. I ended up in the Protective Services Division, where I protected Colin Powell, Dick Cheney, different world leaders, while I was stationed at Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay. Is there any kind of experiences that kind of stick with you today from the military?
I think for me it was just being able to move around in a big city, to learn New York City and all the surrounding areas, going out to a lot of different places, eating out and doing, you know, protective services for their wives and their children whenever they came with them. So it was a lot of rigorous work, but it was fun.
Yeah.
In the end.
Yeah. You know, something I miss, and I know a lot of other vets that we work with miss, is kind of twofold. You know, it's the structure of the military, that purpose, sense of mission that you have, but then also, regardless of your job, right? It could be whatever your job, you still have that purpose and mission every single day. You know what you're going to be doing, and it's a pretty high sense of purpose, being able to protect our country from, you know, anything and everything that could happen. Another thing is camaraderie. I see a lot of vets missing that camaraderie because there's none really like it in the military, at least from my experience. Did you share those experiences?
Oh, absolutely. I know that being around all the men and women that, you know, I served with, and then getting out of the Army and kind of recognizing that that wasn't there anymore. So it was a difficult transition.
Yeah. What kind of ways did that military service make that transition challenging?
Well, for me, I got out and went back home, and I didn't realize the post-traumatic stress disorder that was there. I didn't realize all the transition and how difficult it was going to be for me. Ended up in a world of drugs and alcoholism, trying to fight those demons that was in my head.
Hmm. Looking back on it, do you think your military service influenced kind of your expectations for after the uniform came off? I mean, was there good, bad, and the ugly, right, that happened in the military? I guess what really influenced once that uniform came off?
Well, for me, I had a lot of opportunities to get into, law enforcement and other areas in that field. And I found that I wasn't able to because of all the things that had happened in the military. Being a military policeman, seeing a lot of the things that we had to see and endure. Like I said, at the time, I didn't recognize it. I do now, but at that time, I didn't.
Yeah. What was the hardest part for you personally leaving the military?
For me, I left, as Major Abney would say, under the cover of darkness. I left there with this anticipation that, things were going to be easy, but then I started missing the guys, and starting to, kind of feel like I made a mistake leaving the military.
Yeah. You've already spoken openly about PTSD, the addiction. We haven't really touched on homelessness, but I imagine those challenges really start to stack up and, add together. So can you kind of talk what that period of your life looked like?
Well, we're looking at about, I'd say, 4 or 5 strong years of crack cocaine addiction. It took me into homelessness, incarceration, just loss of family, loss of friends, loss of identity. These were things that I thought I had under control. And I think that one of the things that the military did for me because of that experience was that I was able to acclimate myself to being homeless and acclimate myself to being, in prison and things like that, because, you got a structured environment. That was another structured environment, so it made it easy for me to excel even during those times.
Right. I mean, I imagine you mentioned some of the dignitaries that you had protected while you were in. I'm sure you had a lot of skills. You mentioned you would have been set up really well to become a police officer or anything like that. I mean, how frustrating was that for you to feel so capable when you were getting out and then kind of getting blocked by, the addiction, things like that?
Well, I think that for me, you get so far down in the hole, you can't see your way out of the hole. And so you get comfortable, living in that rut. And so I knew I had the skills and the capabilities, but the addiction was stronger than the skill and the capability.
Yeah. Was there ever a time or season during all of that you really weren't sure who you were anymore, or how you kind of fit in as a civilian?
Well, it was difficult because on the one hand, I was, militarily trained as an officer of the law. On the other hand, I was, using drugs and committing crime, so I definitely didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
I began to put on a whole new identity, and feel comfortable with that identity.
Yeah. So, that's a powerful statement. I mean, that starts to become your identity. What was the moment, or can you describe was it a moment in time or a series of events, or what led you to starting to make the change?
Well, I recognized through my family, my son and his wife and my dad and all of them, that I wasn't producing, and I knew that I needed to find myself again. And that didn't come until I got into treatment, and then I realized, that, I do have a purpose. And so I started to move toward that purpose, find out what it was, get back to being who I was before I even went in the military.
Yeah. And I imagine, interactions with organizations like Veterans Navigation Network, Veterans Inc., some of these other organizations. I mean, I guess, can you just describe how being connected to the military community, being connected to these military veteran support systems helped? in your journey?
Well, for me, it helped immensely because I didn't know. I remember sitting in jail and your guy came in and he said, I'm for VNN, and he gave me the little flyer and I was reading. I thought, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I didn't recognize the power of what the veteran organizations like yours do, because when I came back, I didn't have $2 in gas, and you gave me some gas cards and things, and y'all helped me get back on my feet. Mm-hmm. And that was, for me, was a sense of pride. I got my pride back. I felt good to be a veteran. I felt good to be an Army veteran and have another Army guy there. It really didn't make a difference what branch of service they were from. Yeah. The reality was they reached for me. Yeah. And that allowed me to reach into myself and pull myself back out and say, hey, man, you need to get yourself together.
Right.
And that's what I done.
Well, I think that's a key part too, because we can give gas cards, we can give a car, whatever, but the veteran still has to, do their part in any kind of, or anybody for that matter, in any kind of recovery story or anything like that. So I just thank you for doing what you needed to do to be on the path that you're on now. So I guess you kind of talked about that brotherhood from the service, whether it was just the Army branch or any service, but there's that shared camaraderie, and we can give everybody grief all the time for being in the other branches, but to me that's a piece of that camaraderie that we had in the connection. And you kind of talked about it earlier too, of how the military prepped you to be homeless or in jail because of that structure, and also what I would have called in the service embracing the suck. You're just in some of the worst situations possible, and so you just learn to deal with it because you can't really change it. But I think your story just talks to me or speaks to me about how strong that connection is, and how just somebody saying, hey, one vet to another, here's somebody who cares about you. I imagine that was a piece of getting back on the right track now that you're out, now that you're housed, working on, exciting announcement just starting next week. Where are you going to be?
I'll be starting at Montana State University, Billings, and that's a blessing in and of itself, let me tell you, especially at my age.
Yeah.
A non-traditional student.
Yeah, is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right. So non-traditional student starting school, and what's your plans? Where do you see yourself, moving? You're going back to school, but what for? And
licensed addiction counselor. I recognize that my story embraces more than just me. It embraces the hearts and souls of so many other veterans that are out there struggling, so I want to be able to do something to help them to find themselves, because I know that they're lost in that sea of addiction, or whatever, the PTSD, whatever the mental health issues, homelessness. I see it all the time, so I want to be a part of something positive instead of being a part of something negative.
Yeah, which you're already well on your way going back to school, but also starting your new business, the Recovery Soldier, which you got the swag on today. So,
oh yes, sir.
Tell us about Recovery Soldier Project. What's the mission, and why it was important for you to start it?
Well, for me, my goal was I was in CCP and treatment facility, and somebody was telling me, Eugene, you're a veteran, you're a soldier. Why don't you be a recovery soldier? I thought about that and played with it for a little bit. And I said, you know what, that's got a catch to it. And that became my identity. I became this recovery soldier. And then I wanted to reach out and start helping others, and that's what the Recovery Soldier Project is doing right now. We got this big launch coming up next month with you guys, and I'm like, okay, here's my opportunity. So we do, I do motivational speaking, we do the podcast, we got our clothes, we got a young persons segment of the business that reaches out to the families. The families of the veterans really don't understand the real heart and soul and issues that we suffer from.
Sure.
And so I want to extend past the veteran and go to the families and say, hey, look here, little kid, this is why your daddy is going through what he's going through, because that's what brings them together. So now you're bringing the family together, because as a family unit, we can work. I mean, my son, 40-something years old, and we just now, trying to build a relationship with my grandchildren and whatnot. So I understand that it's my duty as a man to step up and say, hey, you know what, we need to talk about this. We got some issues, we need to talk about it. We seem sometimes to gloss over the reality of what we're dealing with. So I kind of want to step into that field and say, hey, look, this is what we got going on.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. So I think your lived experience, starting your work as a licensed addiction counselor, starting the recovery soldier. I mean, for me, that's how VNN got started too.
Mm-hmm.
Is my own experience transitioning out of the military. It didn't go smooth either, and I just didn't want to see another veteran go through that. And so I think having that lived experience, makes you more powerful. But I mean, how do you see that lived experience kind of shaping how you work with people in that new field, and how you work with people through Recovery Soldier?
Well, what it does for me is it allows me to connect with them. I know from being incarcerated and being in treatment centers and things like that, a lot of people that are in the condition that they're in, they don't want to talk to somebody unless they've been in that condition. They've been through that. So it helps them to come a little bit closer to you and say, hey, I really need some help. And I've had veterans that have come to me and say, hey, can you help me find a job? Can you connect me with VNN or whatever? So I'm advocating for all these other agencies, because it's not about me. I can't do nothing by myself.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for y'all, I wouldn't have no car. If it wasn't for this group, I wouldn't have a house. You know what I mean? So everybody comes together in one big family, and we all work together here in Billings, and we do what we got to do. We just got to step out there and do it. It's just that simple.
Yeah. So I wish I'd had an interview like this 5 years ago, where somebody could have asked me this so that I could see what my answer would have been with VNN 5 years ago, because we've been in operation just a little over 5 years now. But looking ahead, 5 years, where do you see yourself, and where do you see Recovery Soldier Project?
Well, I have to be honest with you. I see myself blowing up a little bit, so to speak. I think that once people hear the message, and they'll find some connection there, and then we can be a little junior VNN, start doing little events and whatnot like y'all do, maybe some motivational speaking, getting out there and talking to some people. But this has been a experience.
Yeah.
But for me, I mean, at 62, I'll be 63 on the 15th of this month, and I've had a heck of a time just realizing that, even at my age, you can do it.
Yeah.
For all them older veterans that I see, that just gave up, and I want to push them. Hey, man, get up.
Yeah.
Let's do a 20-mile road march. Not today, but maybe sometime
Tomorrow.
we'll get to that. But not right now. One step at a time.
Yeah.
One day at a time. I keep putting one foot forward and doing the right thing when nobody's looking.
Yeah.
And that's the key for me nowadays.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. It's definitely an amazing story, and I'm glad to be just a small piece of it, Eugene. So I appreciate you being on the show today. You mentioned earlier about the big launch of Recovery Soldier happening next month, which is going to be at our annual Veteran and Community Expo. We're excited to have you supporting the event, and definitely excited to tell people more about it. So it's an annual event. We get to do it every year, but this year is going to be the biggest and best yet. So thanks for being a part of that. And for viewers who are watching, if you want to hear about that event or any events that Veterans Navigation Network has going on, you can go to our website, veteransnavigation.org. We have a tab called Community Events, and you can see not only our events, but other events for veterans and their families happening all over the state of Montana. And if you don't see it on there, definitely add it. You can submit a request and have those events added to our website as well. And we also share a ton on our social media. So facebook.com/vetnavnet is our social media, primary social media, and we'd love to have you follow us on there so you can be connected to what's going on for veterans in the community. If you are a veteran and you've not connected to your benefits, you're not connected to the resources in your community, whether that's Billings or elsewhere, give us a call, reach out, and we can connect you to the benefits and services that you earned through your service. So thank you all for watching. Thanks for being on the show, Eugene.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all next time.